Most people lose their power long before they ever gain it. Not because they are weak, but because they allow the world to divide their attention. A man who cannot control his focus cannot control his destiny. Today, I will show you what the powerful have always known. That the first step to greatness is destroying every distraction that steals your mind. If you wish to rise above the ordinary, if you wish to command your life instead of serving it, then listen carefully. Focus is not a gift. It is a weapon, and you must learn to use it. Most people imagine that their greatest threats are loud, obvious, and aggressive. Enemies, rivals, failures, or big life obstacles. But Machiavelli would tell you that the true danger is far quieter. It is hidden in the tiny habits, impulses, and distractions you permit every day. The first keynote, eliminate what weakens you, is not simply a motivational phrase. It is a law of power. Anything that drains your time, attention, discipline, or ambition is a threat to your future, and the tragedy is that we often invite these threats unwillingly. A powerful individual is not someone who does more. It is someone who removes more noise, more useless commitments, more time-wasting behaviors, more emotional reactions, more mental clutter. Power is built not by addition but by subtraction. When Machiavelli observed rulers and leaders, he noticed something. Greatness was never destroyed by one big mistake. It was always eroded slowly by small, ignored weaknesses, advisors they allowed too much influence, comforts they indulged too often, distractions they refused to cut off. This principle applies to you in the same way. What weakens you is not always evil. Most of the time, it looks harmless. It looks like scrolling for just 5 minutes, checking your phone every time it lights up, letting people interrupt you because you don't want to seem rude, delaying your goals because you're tired, or allowing your environment to stay messy because you'll fix it later. Each of these small weaknesses doesn't seem dangerous, but each one steals a slice of the mental sharpness you need to build a powerful life. To eliminate what weakens you, you must first admit the truth. You already know what your weaknesses are. You can feel exactly where your discipline leaks. You know the apps, the habits, the places, and the people that make you lose focus. You know the moments when you choose comfort over growth. You know what is easy but harmful and what is difficult but strengthening. Machiavelli's mindset forces you to confront these truths without excuses. Power belongs to the one who sees his flaws clearly and moves against them decisively. Weakness belongs to the one who lies to himself, saying, "It's not that bad," while his life is slowly consumed by small daily distractions. When you begin removing these weaknesses, something interesting happens. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Cutting distractions feels like you're losing something. But gradually you start to notice the space it creates. You realize how much of your mind was being wasted on things that gave you nothing in return. You realize how much more clearly you can think when you are not constantly pulled in different directions. You realize how much time you actually have when you are not surrendering it to meaningless impulses. And most importantly, you realize that every weakness you eliminate increases your strength. Power grows from discipline. Discipline grows from clarity. Clarity grows from focus. Focus grows from the deliberate removal of everything that weakens you. To live with a Machiavellian mindset means understanding that you cannot build anything great on a foundation filled with cracks. You must seal the cracks first. You must treat your focus as a precious resource and guard it with a kind of ruthless loyalty. You must set boundaries with others and with yourself. You must be willing to be uncomfortable in the short term to become unstoppable in the long term. The world will constantly try to weaken you with temptations, noise, and distractions. It will hand you opportunities to escape your goals instead of pursue them. But the person who rises above this, who cuts off every weakness without hesitation, becomes someone truly rare, truly disciplined, and truly powerful. Guarding your attention like a fortress means treating your focus as something valuable, limited, and constantly under attack. Machiavelli believed that a ruler loses power the moment he loses control of his environment. And the same principle applies to the modern individual. Your mind is your territory, your inner kingdom. Everything you allow into it shapes your decisions, your actions, and ultimately your destiny. Yet most people open the gates of their mind to anyone and anything: notifications, messages, noise, gossip, unimportant tasks, random entertainment, and pointless conversations. They leave the gates wide open and then wonder why they feel weak, overwhelmed, distracted, and unable to concentrate on what truly matters. A fortress is strong not because of its walls, but because of how it chooses who can enter. Your attention must be guarded with the same discipline. When you begin to treat attention as a fortress, you become aware of the forces that attack it. These forces don't come wearing armor or carrying swords. They come disguised as convenience, entertainment, comfort, or routine. A single notification seems harmless, yet it pulls you away from deep thought. A quick glance at your phone steals more time than you realize. A conversation with someone who fills your mind with negativity plants seeds of doubt. Every little interruption breaks your momentum and weakens the sharpness of your mind. Machiavelli understood that a ruler who allowed too many voices to influence him would make poor decisions. In the same way, when you allow constant interruptions into your mind, you weaken your ability to think clearly, make decisions, and stay disciplined. Guarding your attention is not about isolation. It is about control. It is about deciding what gets access to your mind and what doesn't. Most people live reactively. They answer every message instantly. Open every app without thinking, switch tasks as soon as something feels difficult, and allow the world to dictate their focus. A person with a Machiavellian mindset lives proactively. They decide when to check their phone, when to engage with others, when to respond, when to rest, and when to work deeply. They design their environment in a way that protects their attention instead of scattering it. This is why powerful people often seem distant, focused, or selective. They value their attention too much to waste it. When you guard your attention, the quality of your thinking changes. You begin to notice how much easier it is to stay concentrated when you are not being constantly interrupted. You realize that deep, work-long periods of uninterrupted focus creates better results than hours of scattered effort. You notice how much more confident you feel when your mind is not filled with noise. You become more strategic, more intentional, and more productive. Your actions become aligned with your goals instead of being guided by impulses or distractions. Machiavelli believed that a strong ruler creates order within his domain. And in the same way, you must create order within your mind by protecting it from unnecessary intrusion. To guard your attention like a fortress, you must build strong internal walls. You must learn to say no without guilt. You must create boundaries around your time. You must silence distractions before they silence your potential. You must choose carefully whom you allow to influence your thoughts. You must design routines that strengthen your focus instead of weakening it. This requires discipline, clarity, and self-respect. But as you begin to practice it, you gain a kind of inner authority that most people never achieve. The world will always pull at your attention. But the person who guards their mind with intention becomes someone who cannot be easily swayed, manipulated, or controlled. They become someone mentally unshakable, someone who commands their life with the strength of a true ruler. Mastering one objective at a time is one of the most powerful disciplines a person can develop, yet it is the skill most people ignore. Machiavelli understood that a leader who tries to fight too many battles at once weakens his entire army. The same is true for your mind. Each time you divide your focus, you divide your strength. Every unfinished task, every competing goal, every mental tab left open consumes a piece of your energy. People often mistake busyness for productivity, believing that doing many things at once shows ambition. In reality, it shows confusion. A scattered mind does not create power. It leaks it. A person with a single clear objective, pursued with intensity, becomes unstoppable because all of their mental, emotional, and physical resources are aligned in one direction. When you choose one objective and commit to it fully, something profound happens. Your mind becomes sharper because it no longer has to juggle 10 different priorities. Decision-making becomes easier because every choice is guided by one central purpose. Your thoughts become cleaner because they all revolve around the same mission. Machiavelli would say that clarity is a weapon, and clarity can only exist when you remove competing goals. Most people never reach their potential, not because they lack talent, but because they keep shifting their focus. They start something, get distracted, start something else, get bored, and continue this cycle endlessly. This is why their results are inconsistent. A mind that constantly changes direction never builds momentum. A mind that stays on one path builds force. Mastering one objective at a time also requires the courage to ignore everything else, even things that seem important. This is where most people fail. They want to achieve one goal, but they also want to maintain comfort, entertain distractions, and chase new ideas the moment they appear. They want discipline, but they do not want to give up the habits that weaken them. Machiavelli would call this divided loyalty, and divided loyalty always leads to defeat. You cannot serve multiple masters, not in politics, not in war, and not in personal growth. When you commit to one objective, you must accept that other things must wait. This is not limitation, this is strategy. Greatness requires sacrifice, and a focused mind must be willing to sacrifice boredom, comfort, and temptation. When you practice focusing on one objective, you begin to build an inner consistency that strengthens your entire character. Each day you return to the same mission, your discipline grows. Each time you resist switching tasks, your mental endurance increases. Each moment you push through difficulty instead of searching for something easier, you train your mind to stay locked in. People who master this become different. They appear calmer, more confident, more intentional. They don't jump from idea to idea or get pulled by every impulse. They move with a sense of direction that others instantly recognize. This is the mindset of someone who has organized their energy around one purpose. Most importantly, focusing on one objective creates results faster than scattered effort ever could. When all your attention is directed at a single goal, you make progress at a deeper level. You learn faster because your brain is not being constantly reset. You build skills faster because repetition strengthens your focus. You see growth clearly because your efforts are concentrated. Machiavelli knew that victories come to those who strike with maximum force at the right point. A focused person does exactly that. They strike in one direction, relentlessly, until they break through. In a world full of distractions, mastering one objective at a time is a rare ability. But those who develop it gain an advantage that feels almost unfair. They accomplish more with less effort, make clearer decisions, and rise above those who are lost in endless multitasking. When you choose one mission and give it everything, you transform your life from scattered attempts into a disciplined pursuit of power. Choosing solitude over noise is not about escaping the world. It is about reclaiming ownership over your mind. Most people fear silence because silence confronts them with their own thoughts. They would rather drown themselves in noise, distraction, and constant stimulation than face the truth of who they are and what they must do. Machiavelli understood that solitude is not weakness, it is the birthplace of clarity. A person who spends time alone, intentionally and consistently, begins to understand his own motives, strengths, weaknesses, and desires with far more honesty than someone who is always surrounded by others. Noise hides your inner confusion. Solitude exposes it, and only when it is exposed can it be eliminated. When you separate yourself from constant external stimulation, you give your mind a chance to breathe. The world is loud, demanding your attention at every moment. Messages, news, gossip, obligations, entertainment, opinions. All of it competes for space in your head. A mind filled with noise cannot think strategically. It reacts instead of reflects. Machiavelli believed that rulers who surrounded themselves with too many voices lost their ability to see clearly. The same is true for you. When you are always connected, always reachable, always reacting, you lose connection with your own inner direction. Solitude is the environment where true focus grows. It is where your thoughts settle, where your priorities become visible, and where you stop absorbing the chaos of others. Choosing solitude also means choosing strength. A person who cannot be alone is controlled by the world because they always need something or someone to fill their mind. They seek validation, entertainment, reassurance, or distraction, and this dependence makes them weak. But the person who can sit alone, undistracted, without anxiety, develops a rare kind of mental independence. They do not require constant noise to feel secure. They do not need approval from others to make decisions. They do not rely on external stimulation for motivation. They carry their direction within themselves. Machiavelli admired individuals who were self-sufficient because such people could not be easily manipulated or swayed. Solitude builds exactly that quality. When you spend time alone with purpose, your thinking becomes more deliberate. You begin to analyze your actions, question your habits, and understand which parts of your life are moving you forward and which are holding you back. Noise encourages impulsiveness. Solitude encourages strategy. Noise pushes you to chase what others are doing. Solitude helps you define what you want for yourself. Many people run away from this because they fear what they might discover in silence, their wasted time, their unfulfilled goals, their hidden regrets. But if you want to build true power, you must face these truths head on. Only then can you correct them. Solitude also strengthens discipline. When you intentionally disconnect from distractions, phones, people, conversations, entertainment, you train your mind to remain still and focused. At first, it feels strange or even uncomfortable because you are breaking addictive patterns. But with time, solitude becomes a powerful tool. It allows you to enter deep concentration, unlock creative solutions, and gain insights that never appear in noisy environments. The greatest thinkers, leaders, and strategists in history all valued solitude for exactly this reason. In quiet moments, the mind has the freedom to connect ideas, identify opportunities, and plan with clarity. Most importantly, choosing solitude over noise gives you control over your internal state. When you are constantly in noise, the world shapes your emotions. When you spend time alone, you shape them yourself. You begin to understand your triggers, your ambitions, your fears, and your desires not as random feelings but as signals. You become more stable, more calm, and more aware of how your mind works. Machiavelli believed that power belongs to those who understand themselves, because self-understanding allows them to act with intention rather than impulse. In the end, solitude is not a withdrawal from life, it is preparation for it. The more time you spend in silence, the stronger your thoughts become when you return to the world. You walk into noise with a mind that is no longer overwhelmed by it. You become someone who listens less to the chaos outside and more to the voice within. That is the essence of power, the ability to think clearly, act deliberately, and remain unaffected by the distractions that control everyone else. Removing weak influences without mercy is one of the hardest, but most transformative principles of power. Most people imagine their enemies as people who openly oppose them, criticize them, or stand in their way. But Machiavelli understood something deeper. The most dangerous enemies are the ones who quietly drain your strength, distract your mind, and weaken your resolve while appearing friendly, harmless, or familiar. Influence is powerful because it enters your mind without force. It changes how you think, feel, and act. If you allow weak, unfocused, negative, or aimless people to shape your environment, they will shape your destiny as well. To build real power, you must develop the ability to recognize such influences and remove them with decisive clarity. Weak influences come in many forms. Some are people friends who gossip, partners who discourage your ambitions, relatives who mock your goals, co-workers who normalize laziness, or acquaintances who waste your time with meaningless talk. Others are habits scrolling endlessly, consuming pointless content, accepting invitations that take you away from your work, or staying connected to environments that offer no growth. And then there are mental influences, doubt, fear, insecurity, and the desire for approval from people who add nothing to your life. Machiavelli teaches that if someone weakens your focus, undermines your discipline, or pulls you away from your purpose, they are not neutral. They are obstacles. Even if they care about you, even if they mean well, even if they are close to you, the effect is the same. They slow your progress. They dilute your ambition. They weaken your power. Removing weak influences requires honesty, and honesty often hurts. It forces you to admit that some people you have known for years do not want you to grow beyond them. It forces you to accept that some relationships exist only because you fear being alone. It forces you to see that some habits you find comforting are actually destroying your potential. Most people never make these cuts because they cling to comfort. Machiavelli would say that comfort is often the enemy of strength. If your environment is filled with people and habits that keep you comfortable but stagnant, you will never rise above mediocrity. Power is not built in comfortable environments. It is built in environments that challenge you, stretch you, and demand improvement. When you begin removing weak influences, your life becomes clearer. Conversations that once drained your energy disappear. People who once distracted you become silent. Habits that once consumed hours fade. You create space, mental, emotional, and physical, for discipline, focus, and ambition to grow. This space is essential because without it, your strengths remain buried under chaos. Removing weak influences is not cruelty. It is self-respect. It is prioritizing your future over temporary comfort. It is choosing your highest potential instead of the expectations of those who fear change. You will notice something interesting once you do this. Strong influences begin to enter your life. When you create space, you attract people and ideas that align with your direction. You become more selective, more confident, and more intentional with your time. You stop tolerating excuses and start demanding results from yourself. Your environment becomes a reflection of your ambition. Machiavelli believed that a ruler is shaped not by his intentions but by the company he keeps. The same is true for you. Surround yourself with the weak, and you will become weak. Surround yourself with the focused, disciplined, and driven, and you will become someone powerful. Removing weak influences also strengthens your identity. Each time you cut out a distraction, you send a message to yourself. My goals matter. Each time you distance yourself from someone who undermines your growth, you reinforce your self-worth. Each time you refuse to engage in negativity, you sharpen your mind. You become someone who does not move with the crowd but stands apart from it. This independence is the foundation of all power. You cannot lead your own life if you are controlled by the energy of others. You cannot build greatness if you surround yourself with weakness. By removing weak influences without mercy, you reclaim control over your direction and set yourself on a path that only the strong follow. Discipline is the root of authority, yet it is one of the most overlooked qualities in those who aspire to power. Most people imagine that leadership, influence, and success come from luck, talent, or charm. Machiavelli understood that while those factors can open doors, lasting power is built on the foundation of discipline. Without it, all other abilities are wasted. Discipline is the ability to control yourself, your actions, and your impulses even when no one is watching. It is the commitment to do what must be done, not what is easy or pleasurable. It is the silent force that turns ambition into reality and strategy into victory. A disciplined person treats time, energy, and resources as sacred. Every action is deliberate, every habit intentional, every choice aligned with a larger goal. Most people squander their potential because they fail to recognize the small, repeated behaviors that determine the course of their lives. They give in to distractions, procrastinate, follow impulse, and allow their environment to dictate their priorities. Discipline is the antidote to this chaos. It creates consistency, and consistency compounds over time. A single act of discipline may feel insignificant, but repeated relentlessly, it transforms the individual into someone whose capabilities far exceed those of undisciplined peers. Machiavelli observed that rulers who could not control themselves often fell victim to circumstance. Their desires, fears, and whims dictated their decisions, leaving them vulnerable to manipulation and failure. The same principle applies today. A mind that lacks discipline reacts instead of plans, complains instead of acts, and drifts instead of drives. Authority, influence, and respect are granted not to those who speak the loudest or appear the strongest, but to those whose actions are consistent, deliberate, and unwavering. Discipline creates predictability in behavior, which others recognize as strength. People follow those who have control over themselves because they know such a person will not falter under pressure. Discipline also cultivates freedom, paradoxically. Most individuals think freedom comes from doing whatever they want. Machiavelli would argue the opposite. True freedom comes from mastering oneself. When you control your habits, desires, and impulses, you are no longer a slave to circumstance or emotion. You choose your actions rather than reacting to events. You are free to pursue long-term objectives without being swayed by momentary pleasure or fear. Every act of self-control, every decision to prioritize purpose over comfort, expands your authority over your own life and, by extension, over the outcomes you seek to influence. The power of discipline lies in its cumulative effect. Each day, disciplined individuals reinforce their own strength. They rise early when others linger, focus when others are distracted, and persist when others give up. Small acts resisting temptation, completing tasks on time, following routines, maintaining focus compound into significant advantages. Machiavelli noted that it is rarely a single heroic act that secures lasting power. It is the accumulation of small, controlled, and deliberate actions that create a reputation for authority. Discipline becomes both shield and sword. It protects against the erosion of focus and confidence while simultaneously cutting a path toward achievement. Discipline also sharpens decision-making. A mind accustomed to control is less likely to be swayed by impulse or external pressures. It evaluates situations strategically, acts decisively, and endures setbacks with composure. This creates the perception of reliability, intelligence, and strength, qualities that inspire trust, respect, and influence. People naturally defer to those who demonstrate consistent self-mastery because such individuals do not act erratically or succumb to weakness. Machiavelli believed that authority is often the result of perception as much as reality, and discipline ensures that perception aligns with capability. Finally, discipline is inseparable from power because it sustains all other qualities. Intelligence, strategy, skill, and ambition require discipline to manifest. Without it, ideas remain unexecuted, talents unused, and potential unrealized. Every act of discipline reinforces your capacity to act with authority, to command respect, and to achieve outcomes that others cannot. It transforms a person from one who merely dreams of influence into one who consistently attains it. By cultivating unwavering discipline, you lay the foundation upon which all power, focus, and mastery are built, creating a life governed not by chance, but by deliberate, controlled, and unstoppable action. Power, focus, and mastery are not gifts given by chance. They are forged through relentless discipline, strategic thinking, and the courage to remove anything that weakens you. The world will always try to pull you in every direction, but the person who controls their attention, masters their purpose, and surrounds themselves only with strength becomes unstoppable. Remember, greatness is not achieved by following the crowd, indulging distractions, or hoping for fortune. It is claimed by those who act deliberately, think clearly, and move with ruthless focus. The choice is yours. Allow the world to dictate your path, or seize control of your mind, your habits, and your destiny. To become the most focused, the most powerful version of yourself, you must act now with purpose and without hesitation.